topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon. California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. This is the 16th year of the Ask the Expert show. And boy, do we have an incredible show for you today. Two great people, our two great experts. We're going to be talking about public adjusting. And I got to tell you that we have a lot of homeowners that watch and listen to this show. And we're going to show you why it's so important that you really don't try to handle, if you've got a claim, try to handle this yourself, that you could do a lot better with the public adjuster. And these guys are so good, they'll even tell you if you should go ahead and just handle it yourself. But let me introduce you to our experts from Crown Adjusting, Robert Crown and Joseph Fernandez. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Steve. Nice to be here.
I'm so glad. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, so first of all, I guess, Robert, how long has Crown Adjusting been around?
We've been around since 2014. I've been a public adjuster since 1985, mostly here in California.
And Joseph, what made you decide to join Robert in Crown Adjusting?
Well, for the longest time, I was an engineer. I did that for about 12 years. I kind of dabbled in a little bit of the insurance industry. I did do some deployments as an independent adjuster where I was contracted on behalf of the insurance company. And while I was doing that, I saw a lot of inequality in how the system was very skewed against the homeowner. And that really made me see how I feel like it's not so much that the insurance company needs help, it's really the consumer that needs most of the help these days. That's what convinced me to go and jump to the other side and join forces with Robert to provide the much needed help that the insureds, the policyholders need.
Well, the most important thing that we want to get across on this show is, there's so many people who don't have any idea what a public adjuster is. So, Robert, you start off first. Tell us what a public adjuster does.
Well, public adjusters are all over the country. I believe 47 of the 50 states are licensed. And there are practicing PAs in those other states. The licensing and the restrictions or the regulations are different. But public adjusters are retained by homeowners after a loss to prepare, present, and help them negotiate the best settlement possible. The mechanics of putting that together and dealing with it require a high degree of expertise. And most people they muddle through it until they have a problem. If we're lucky enough to be involved early on, we're the ones that are putting the claim together to help the property owner avoid mistakes.
Joseph, you hear about, hurricanes, which we are now in hurricane season.
Yeah.
But there's so many other areas that use a public adjuster handle. Tell people what those areas are.
Yeah, I mean, catastrophe is one of the areas that allow people to learn a lot about public adjusters, typically like in Florida, Texas. But when it's not hurricane season, when it's not hailstorm season, there are a lot of other disasters that are happening, like fires, floods, tree falls, things of that nature that requires where the damage is so extensive such that it requires someone to have to put a claim with their insurance company, because otherwise they don't want to foot the bill of replacing and repairing their house by themselves. That's why we have insurance, is to have the insurance company cover it. So all those areas and all those other types of losses, theft, vandalism, those are all things that we work with to essentially adjust and make sure that the insurance company pays a equal and equitable settlement to the insured.
You know, again, we have to remember that most of our audience have never.
Now look who's having technical difficulties.
Steve, you're frozen.
Well, we might have to go on without him.
Steve, if you can hear us, you're frozen on our side.
He's
okay.
Yeah, he's coming back there. So we probably can elaborate on not so much why people hire us, but the mechanics of what we do. If an insurance company is dealing directly with the consumer, they're basically telling you what they're going to do. You don't really know what you have to do yourself. So the reason for hiring a PA is basically to make sure that the learning curve on your own is not going to generate a bad outcome. Because when the insurance company comes out and they tell you what they're going to do, they don't tell you you have the right to hire your own contractor. They don't tell you that the people they're bringing out only establish the preliminary obligation. So any numbers the insurance company comes up with originally, it's just a starting point. And sometimes we get called 3 months in, and that's a problem for people because they may not have unending coverage for their loss of use. And the insurance company might have gotten a jump start on calculating the damages in a somewhat prejudicial manner, arguing that the person they brought out, who may not even be a licensed general contractor, is determining that the work can be done for considerably less than anyone else. Of course, you have to have a reference point to know what the differences are. And sometimes we get called when they haven't really done anything to advance the claim or start the permit process. And they are, again, at a disadvantage, mostly because they were taking a wait and see approach. So timing is pretty important.
Yeah, I think we get a lot of people that will have an initial consultation with, and they'll say, I'm having this claim, I'm having this loss. I'm trusting that the insurance company is going to do right by me. And why don't I wait to hire you and see where they come in with their numbers first? And then that way I'll know how much help I need. And the problem with that is we both will tell them, it's like, you can certainly do that. That's definitely an approach. It's not one approach that we recommend, because the more you allow the insurance company to kind of advance that position, that whatever number they come up with, the harder it's going to be to get them to move. All of the experts that they bring in are going to essentially rally around that number, because the hope is that you're going to take that, agree with it, and even though you know that it's not adequate, you're going to start thinking, well, how on earth am I going to get more out of this insurance company when they've already made it very clear that this is what they're going to pay? So in reality, the best time that we say to hire a public adjuster is as soon as possible, because we do all that groundwork ahead of time. We make sure that people and the insurance company primarily understands that you can come up with a preliminary number all you want, but we still have the right to adjust this claim, find out more information, get our experts involved, do our due diligence for your benefit, for the insured, to make sure that we essentially advance as much of that information, get as much and extract all that from the claim, so that you stand to benefit from that by the time that we're done doing our portion.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep. Welcome back.
We have the worst storm here. All the lights went out and it knocked us off the air. So I'm on my cell phone. If I lose you again, just carry on, because you guys can do such a great job. I had just asked you the question about when's the time to hire a public adjuster. And I guess you guys, did you hear that?
Yeah, I hear it. Hey, listen, I'm hoping you're not going to be calling us back and saying, I need help with an insurance claim.
Hey, you know what? I'm in Florida here. It's hurricane season here.
I know it is.
So let me ask you. So when a person hires you, let's just say they've got roof damage, water leaks. How long does it take usually to get a claim finalized?
It's an interesting and complex question. A large loss the time it used to take compared to now, with an array of disasters in California almost 1 year after another, I would say the time has exponentially increased. But you could have a bad fire to a kitchen and smoke damage to a house. It might take us 2 months to put our numbers together, maybe a little less. But getting the insurance company to respond and to come up with the numbers that we believe it's going to adequately represent the cost of repair, they drag their feet because they're making money on their money. So I would say 3 to 6 months on average, and maybe as much as a year.
Okay. Well, again, I want everybody to realize that every situation is different. And we're getting text in right now, people wanting to know about your fees. How do your fees work?
Public adjusters work on a percentage of the collectible. So normally they can range from 5% to 15%. In California, if we're working on new money, it is considerably more than 15%, because some people don't want to pay money on the money they've already received. It's really the same amount of work for us, though, whether we're working on new money or from $1. So we try to structure it so that ultimately the consumer is going to see the value. I sometimes will say no to a client who may have a very substantial loss. We're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the conditions for my success, or the likelihood of my success, and the timing doesn't make it. They may need us desperately in some cases, but if I'm not going to be able to make them happy, they have other recourse to get a claim settled. A claim that's 6 months old, where there's a huge difference in the value of the repairs compared to what the insurance company is agreeing to pay or wants to pay. That's a claim that might be better resolved in appraisal, which is it's a form of mediation, but it's binding, where the insurance company hires their own. You can request it. Any side can request it. It involves hiring an appraiser. Frequently, it's an appraiser that will recommend. because if we're handling it as public adjusters, we can't change hats and then serve as an appraiser. We would recommend an appraiser between the insurance company's appraiser, because they would be obligated to pick one too. Between the insurance company's appraiser and the appraiser that's representing the policyholder, they would select an umpire, and then they go through this dispute resolution process, and 2 out of the 3 render a result, a verdict, an award, if you will. Sometimes it's an award that's only signed by 2 people. In the case of an award that's favorable to the consumer, we would sign it, the umpire would sign it, the appraiser for the insurance company probably wouldn't. But that is the go-to when you can't agree on valuation. So if I'm doing an evaluation, if I'm interviewing with a client that wants to hire us, and I know that there are problems in the mechanics of what took place before I got involved, and they are 6 months into trying to get it resolved, and they don't even have a builder lined up, but they do have someone that is giving them estimates. They just don't have an agreement on the scope of the work. If I thought it was going to leave them with a shortage of money to pay for their loss of use, I might recommend another option besides hiring us. It's probably a separate conversation when we talk about appraisal, but that's what happens when the insurance company and the public adjuster can't agree.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, Robert, I think most of the time we find ourselves probably explaining to someone that we're not the best fit due to the nature of their claim, or their claim being a little too small. The reason that is because at the end of the day, we're providing a service. Obviously, we're going to get paid for our service. And if we're taking a portion of those proceeds from your claim in payment for the service and the work that we're providing, we want to make sure that we're leaving you, the insured, the consumer, with enough money to perform those repairs. So typically when you have a small loss, and this is for us, it's usually quantified in anything that's under, $150,000 to $100,000 less than that. It's hard to essentially be able to front or fund our fee, and also be able to pay for the work that needs to get done. So in those cases, Robert or I will spend time educating the prospective client, giving them enough information so that they can essentially try to handle it on their own, or get them in a place where they can proceed and try to at least make some headway with the insurance company. But anything that's above that, it usually is a good fit for us, because there's more margin in it for us, and it allows us to really value engineer the claim and add more to it, such that in the best case scenario, the contractor has more than enough money to do the work, he gets paid, and our fee comes off right off the top. Now, that's the best case scenario. It doesn't always happen that way, but I would say that if our fee can get worked into it, we absolutely work towards accomplishing that, so that there is no out-of-pocket expense for our client.
We, as a rule, because many people will ask, well, if they're going to settle on a dollar figure, how do I pay you? We can't guarantee our clients that there'll be extra money, but when they see the evolution of the claim starting at $100,000 and then going to 150, and then going from 150 to $200,000 and even more, the client knows that they would not have gotten that kind of money without us. The trick for them, and this is totally legitimate, once you arrive at a settlement dollar figure with the insurance company, you have the right to move money around to create some value added so you're not dipping into your pocket. For instance, you might go back with engineered flooring to save money. You might go back with sheetrock instead of lath and plaster. There's economies of scale in a job that's a couple $100,000. And you do have an obligation to show the insurance company you're spending money, but you don't really have an obligation to show them anything more than the contract you have with your builder. So there are ways to anticipate our expense, but the bottom line is we earn our fee, and most of our clients feel that way. So,
Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, good. God, we are really having bad weather here. I got to do this, and you sent me some numbers that I'm not blown away by them because of my situation I went through, but just going through just some. I'm not going to give out names or anything, but here's one of the claims you did. It was water, and I guess they were offered $269,351. But Crown Adjusting got them $620,196. Now again, every situation is different. Mine kind of went that with the numbers weren't that high, but guys, that is amazing. I mean, here's a tree fall, which we've actually had people call during your show wanting to know if a next door neighbor's tree falls on your house, but they were offered 88,000 and change. You got them 161,000. And what I notice also is there's a lot of different insurance companies, and there's no need to name them all.
oh, he went off again. It must be quite a storm they're facing in Florida.
Yeah, hurricane season is upon everyone up there. Not sure where he's located.
I think the East Coast is about to get bombarded. This is I think a tail end of or part of what might be a hurricane front. This is that time of year for people on the East Coast. Batten down the hatches.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
These claims where the resulting dollar value is exponentially more, at least for most public adjusters here in California, it's fairly common that the insurance company's initial figure will easily be less than half of what the claim might be worth. And the reason for that is kind of simple. Most people don't know what they're doing. And the insurance company comes in with a very conservative estimate, hoping that when you go out and get your own, it will be for a number that is close to the number that the insurance company already came up with. And if you're not dealing with a consultant that knows insurance repair work, chances are it's not going to reflect the full cost of repairs. So that's the game. They're not going to pay you more than they have to. And if you found somebody that could do the work, if you found somebody that could do the work for the insurance company's price, you're done. So part of it is what's missing from that preliminary estimate that you as a layperson don't understand nor recognize that's part of the claim. That's a reason, I tell people you hire a public adjuster.
I think also people don't. Can you?
We hear you.
Okay. I think people also don't realize how much work, how much labor you put into this before you realize any money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the time alone is a factor that people have no idea in the beginning how much time they'll devote to this. But until you provide the insurance company with an alternative understanding of the repairs, the full extent of the repairs, they're not paying more than they come up with initially. And that's why some of those illustrations, Stephen, are as dramatic as they are.
Yeah, it really comes down to the insurance company is no longer in the business. I mean, Robert may say at some point the insurance companies, most of them did right by their customers, and they actually put a pretty decent evaluation of damages together, reflective in their estimates, but they're no longer in the business of proving the damages and the extent of damages. They put that on you to do. And because you don't know how to do that, they're banking on the fact that you're just going to go with what they say or what their contractor says. And you're going to think, well, I don't know, this sounds right, or this doesn't sound right. I think I'm going to need some outside help. And at that point, we get hired and we say, no, this is complete lowball estimate. If this should be double, if not more. And then at that point, they realize, well, they've got a public adjuster involved. We are under obligation to work with them. And at that point, that's when the real work begins. And that's when we really just start putting the correct numbers together. And it's like a game of tug of war. You make small advances forward. You take one step forward, two steps back, and eventually you cross that goal line and you succeed. But it does take time. It's not easy. And there are no two claims that are the same. Every claim requires a different set of solutions and things to try and resolve, because you're dealing not only with different insurance companies, you're dealing with different adjusters. There's various variables that make this a very different dynamic, where it's never a one size fits all. So people talk about, well, I'm using AI to try and resolve my claim. And a lot of people realize that AI is only kind of getting you half of the way there. If you don't have the experience and the know-how, you're only just throwing a bunch of laws and things at them that they know that you don't know, and they understand that you're just pulling this stuff out of the air. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that experience and the backing of someone like us, you don't know how hard to push or what levers to pull and how to incorporate that leverage to get the result that you want. So all in all, there's never a one size fits all solution to claim resolution. Everything is unique, and you have a whole onslaught of variables that make it that way.
You also have to keep in mind the insurance companies in many instances are bringing in people that handle a lot of claims for them. And if we have a past experience with an individual adjuster or a contractor that does work for them, sometimes knowing who the players are has a lot to do with getting a different understanding of the loss, because it's not just a machine that's going through the building to determine what's damaged, what isn't. And until the technology is such that it can do that, you're dealing with human beings. And in many cases, these complex claims with a client that's really nervous about what they're doing wrong or just needs a high degree of hand-holding or understanding, insurance companies love it when we're hired, because they still have an obligation to adjust the claim. Now they've got somebody that comes along that knows what the hell they're doing.
Here's a text from San Diego. Martin, he wants to know, how do I determine which insurance companies are good and which are not?
Well, there's a rating. AM Best rates insurance companies for both their premium and their claims practices. I think you have to go on social media to figure it out. I don't know that it would serve me well to lambast one insurance company over another. But we personally know who the good carriers are. And more often times than not, I am getting calls from people I know, from pretty smart consumers who are asking that very same question. So good for you, because we are the guys to ask.
Yes.
It's not really, we haven't figured out how to address that. We're not making money giving people advice over the phone, but I can advise somebody as to who they should try to insure with. But the market here in California is pretty peculiar because you don't want to have to be shopping for insurance because yours is about to expire. And at the last minute, you're finding out that some insurance companies aren't even writing new business in California. So it would be good homework for every consumer, every policyholder to look at their coverage, to find out if they have enough. And if they were thinking about changing at some point in time, they would have another insurance carrier lined up to take their place once you cancel with the company you're with. It's a good homework assignment for people.
Hey, here's a good text for you guys. If I'm not happy after listening to your show with my PA, can I fire them and hire your company?
Only because this has come
See,
up.
I know you guys are going to be honest about it.
Well, I'm going to be, because we just experienced
I know.
this, and I think it was because the client wasn't entirely truthful with us when she first reached back out to us, because we had talked to this person, a couple months ago, and we're poised to help her until we found out that she was already being represented by someone. So what we do when people are being forthcoming, and they should be, is that we will tell them that they have to disengage themselves from the PA that they're working with, beginning with talking about why they're not happy and finding out if the public adjuster will release them from the agreement. Chances are, for a public adjuster that's done a fair amount of work, they're not going to be terribly willing to do that unless they get paid for what they've done thus far. And in the general scheme of things, we would not look at that as being a good fit without knowing a lot more data points. And I think interfering in somebody else's contract is problematic as a public adjuster to begin with. Because you certainly wouldn't want it done to you if somebody decided
Right.
they didn't like the way you combed your hair in the morning. There normally are reasons for a consumer to be unhappy, and there is recourse for getting a PA off your claim. But you'd have to do a little bit of research, or maybe talk to an insurance attorney about it. I would say you start with the public adjuster that's representing you.
And for a general rule of thumb, too, for most people, there is a 3-day right of rescission when you do sign. This is for California, at least. I can't speak to all the other states. And we always make our clients aware of that, only because we're very openly transparent. And we've never had a client that's canceled after they've signed. But we always make them aware of that, because if for some reason they're on the fence and then they later decide, actually, I don't need representation, you have to do it within the 3 days from the moment that you sign the contract. So here in California, that's something that we're bounded by. And like I said, we make our clients very much aware of that. In the event of a catastrophe, a state declared catastrophe, I believe it's 5 days. Robert, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But in most cases, it's 3.
And a FEMA event, it's longer, and I think the state of California has adopted the same standard. I think it is now 5 days. But the I suppose as a complement to the way different public adjusters work, Many public adjusting firms have sales representatives who are going out and introducing themselves and talking about how great their company is. And it's very easy for any one of us to overextend ourselves and maybe take on more business than we should. Large firm, small firm, you name it, it can happen. I think it helps to know going in who's going to be working on your claim, what's their caseload like, and having a sense of their commitment to your own individual situation. Because the runaround you get from insurance companies has to do with being overburdened and not having even enough adjusters to do what they're supposed to do. So I think people should take extra care in making sure that they're hiring the right company and they know who's going to be working on their individual claim file. That's my, this is just a personal preference because I have also worked for a large public adjusting firm. You're only good for what you can say to people by being honest and forthright. And if there's smoke and mirrors, you're not going to have if you're saying something you think your client wants to hear, you're doing them a disservice and you're doing yourself a huge disservice.
Definitely. Yeah, that's one of the things that we do differently here at Crown Adjusting. When we go out there and we meet with a prospective client and insured, and we're talking about their claim, what we can do, how we can help them, and we're interested in representing them. The question does often come up is, are you going to be working on my claim? And the answer to that question is absolutely. I'm going to be working on your claim. And I think what people like about, the having a representation with someone when the first interaction and then knowing that they're going to be dealing with you throughout the life of their claim gives them a sense of comfort because people want to work with people they like. And so off the bat, if they wow, I like Robert, I like Joseph. Well, okay, at this point, it's just a matter of them handling this claim. I feel comfortable they're going to be handling it. They're not going to pass it off to someone whom I've never met, because at the end of the day, the person whom you're going to be married to or joined at the hip for the next 10 to 12 months is the person working on your claim, not the person that just came out. In our sense, we're the ones actually doing the work. We're the ones actually spending the 10 to 12 months interfacing with the client, talking to the adjuster, attending meetings, doing all those sorts of things that require the claim to get resolved at the end of the day. So we have to be very mindful on the claims that we handle, our workload, our bandwidth, all those things, because we have to make sure that we're providing top-notch service to all of our clients, not spreading ourselves too thin.
It's funny we're talking about this. I learned a big lesson. First of all, you've got to be patient. And I wasn't very patient, but they really didn't instruct me in the beginning. It's like you're not going to be, when something happens, you'll be the first to call. So I would be calling them. Have you heard anything? And it's just, you just got to be patient. And you know what? It turned out the longer it took, the more money I got.
That is frequently the case.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. People will oftentimes, I volunteer this willingly. It's not a perfect world. So I know that the first thing that people will, if not complain about, think to themselves, why is it taking so long? Well, they don't know what it would be like without us in terms of what the length of time will be, but you can at least assume that because we work on a contingency fee basis, we're motivated to get it resolved, but not at the expense of leaving a lot of money on the table when we know our clients are owed it.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing case studies with clients who don't understand the process, and we could talk at length about one of them, but we just submitted our claim, which is three or four times the original figure when we started our work, because the insurance company dragged their feet. And we made an executive decision because we weren't getting any cooperation that we were going to put the numbers together, support it with uh, the uh, the additional scope items that weren't included the first time around or even the second time around. And now we have a real adequate and thorough representation of what the value of those repairs are. And it literally is 6 or 7 times the insurance company's original. They never finished their figures, but it's 6 times the original thought as to what they thought they could settle it for. And we're in attack mode, and hopefully we're gonna get a response from them pretty quickly. But there's no reason. This is a water loss. There was no reason that these people should be out of their house for a year when it could have been resolved.
Wow.
It could have been resolved already.
Yeah, we have claims where, I kid you not, Steve, we call us like we're seeing things and we think there's almost bad motive behind it by the insurance company, and we're skeptical of a lot of the things that these insurance adjusters do. But it almost seems like they intentionally go out of their way to create an impediment for the insured to move this claim forward in a way that makes the insurance company responsible for the damages. And they, like Robert said, it's smoke and mirrors. They try to distract you over here while they're doing something over here to try and downplay the damages that doesn't allow them to be liable or responsible for it. And we've seen that a lot. And like Robert says, you almost have to go in attack mode to discredit those claims with those adjusters. And they do this day in and day out. And they do this with us. Imagine someone who has no idea how to work on a claim. They're going to completely become blindsided. And before you know it, they're going to get themselves deep in a hole where they're not going to be able to climb themselves out of. And we see that very, very often with certain insurance companies.
I've got to get this. We've actually got 4 people who all in Southern California, basically with the same question. They want to know if the fires are holding up insurance companies and making them drag their feet.
I think the simple answer to that is yes. I think the insurance companies that are handling claims in Southern California, the phones don't stop ringing because the clients have questions. They don't have enough trained people to service those claims. And in a wildfire situation where a whole community is decimated, you've got the municipality to deal with who is trying to fast track permits. But if you don't have enough money to rebuild your house, you're not starting tomorrow. And if you haven't received a full and fair payment from your insurance company, you're not hiring a builder tomorrow. You're probably wondering, will I ever get enough money out of my insurance company to rebuild? And, we are handling total losses in Southern California, but we have waited to get involved in some of those claims because we knew the insurance company was going to come up with the easy money. And so I, as a rule, have to look at each claim on a case-by-case basis. We talk to people on the phone. We have a general idea how large a claim they have on their hands, and we're interested. But we still, as a matter of course, go look at it to determine how extensive it is. We analyze the coverage. We want to make sure our clients have enough money. And we want to be transparent about whether our fee is going to be a detriment to the entire process, because some people don't have enough money to rebuild.
Right.
So, if we're talking to somebody who maybe already knows well, I'm underinsured. I doubt very much I'll have enough to rebuild, but I still haven't gotten my policy limit. We're having a conversation about what we're going to charge for the work we do, because we still have to, we still have to cover our own expense putting it together. So I was not, we were not public adjusters that were waiting in line to talk to people when this calamity occurred. I do know a lot of people in Southern California, so many people have found their way to us. But it's a lot of work. It's a terrible experience for the consumer, but
Yeah,
it's a
I
lot of
got to
work.
tell you, I appreciate. I so appreciate what you guys do, and um, I think that the more people who find out understand what a public adjuster is. I thought I was the stupid one who didn't really know, but turns out by the texts that we get and emails we get, there are so many people who don't understand uh, the work you do and how fortunate it is for them to have you represent them. Um, Joseph, tell people how they can reach you.
So they can reach us. We have our phone numbers down on the scroll down below, but you can also reach us at crownadjusting.com. We have on our website, we have a claim evaluation survey. That survey allows you to enter all your claim, kind of all the details of what you're going through, upload your policy so we can see how much insurance you have, who your adjuster is, how much money you've received thus far. That really allows us the size of your home, whether it's a rental property, primary dwelling. That right there allows us to get a real inside look of what kind of claim you have. And again, if it's for some reason it's not something that's suitable that we can help you with, we can at least spend some time on the phone with you, talk to you, give me some advice, kind of set you on a path. But that's the best way to get in contact with us through our website, through our claim evaluation survey, or just call us. We'll pick up the phone and we'll be happy to chat with you.
Robert,
We
now don't get the big head. I'm going to tell you something. We get so many people, PAs all over the country, wanting to do our show, and I talk with these people. I got to tell you, what you've done with Crown Adjusting, the way you run your business, and you and I spoke for an hour before we even started. I tell you what, it's. I hope someday you can do the whole entire United States because the way you treat your clients, the amount of success you and Joseph have is amazing. And I had to put that in because I talk to a lot of PAs every day, and it makes me really appreciate you guys.
That's a very nice compliment, Stephen. And
Thank you, Steve.
I do know that you know people that are attracted to this business are there. Some of them are a little misguided about the nature of the business. It's never just all about how much money you're going to get someone, because it's them better understanding what you're doing that makes for a happy client. And if you're handling 50 claims at once, how much time do you have for your clients? My business model is not the big company model. It's point of sale from the beginning to the end. You know who you're dealing with. That has worked pretty well for me. And even when I worked for a large company, the continuity you get when you know who you're going to be working with makes for a much happier client. I'll take that compliment. Um,
Yes.
I try.
Well, the good news is because of the weather problems we've had, we're going to replay this show. Besides, it's on iHeart right now, and it's also on Spreaker and Spotify. But we're going to be replaying the show again next week, guys. I am so glad to have you, and the good news is you're going to be back with us again next month on the Ask the Expert show. Thank you guys both.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Steve.
That's Crown Adjusting. God, these guys are really good. If you've got a claim you want to put in, you want to hire these people. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. Sorry about the bad weather here. It got really bad. Um, Thank you, Juan. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.